This is the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rosenstein, there are approximately 14,000 special agents within the FBI. Is that correct?
37,000 total employees.
And is it fair to say that a majority of those FBI special agents are registered Republicans?
I haven't asked them, and I wouldn't want to speculate.
Fair to say that a majority of the 14,000 FBI special agents have conservative-leaning political views, like much of the law enforcement community throughout the entire nation?
I'm certain that many of them do. I haven't counted.
Now, the Department of Justice apparently last evening invited a group of reporters to its offices to view the private text messages that were sent during the election by Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Now, who exactly authorized the Department of Justice in advance of a congressional hearing to invite reporters to come view private text message communications between two Department of Justice employees who are the subject of a pending investigation? Did you give that order, sir?
I think it's a very important question you asked, Congressman, because that was one of my concerns about this issue, is what is the status of these messages, and is it appropriate to release them? And the determination was made that it is. So we gave notice to their attorneys. We notified the committee. And our goal, Congressman, is to make sure that it's clear to you and the American people we are not concealing anything that's embarrassing to the FBI.
So is it extraordinary that you would invite reporters for a private viewing in advance of a congressional hearing?
Only if the information is appropriate for public release. If it's not appropriate for public release, it is never appropriate to disclose it to reporters.
Okay, now Shannon Bream is a Fox News Supreme Court reporter. She tweeted last evening at 9:29 that Fox News producer Jake Gibson has approximately 10,000 text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, it's my understanding that only about 350 or so were released to this committee. Is that correct?
There are others that are being reviewed, and we've assured the committee chairs that we're going to produce them as soon as we have them available. There's some redactions that need to be made.
So how is it possible that Fox News apparently has 10,000 text messages?
I wouldn't assume that's true just because it was in the news, Congressman. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, but this is a Fox News reporter who's indicating that. I'm sure we're going to get to the bottom of it. Hopefully the chairman in a bipartisan way would be interested in what is clearly would be a violation of law and Department of Justice proceedings.
If there were any evidence that we disclosed information to a reporter that wasn't appropriate for public release or wasn't disclosed to the Congress, I would agree with you. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, now Department of Justice investigations should be free of political interference, true?
Absolutely.
Can we put up a tweet from Donald Trump on November 3rd at 3:57 a.m. in the morning? God knows what he was doing at that time other than tweeting. It says, everybody, can we put that tweet up?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the unanimous consent that the clock stop while we're trying to...
What was the gentleman's request?
Yeah, the committee had been given notice of a tweet that I wanted displayed on the screen last evening, and I've been asking for that to be put up.
And there's some technical difficulty in doing that? Yes. All right, yeah, we'll suspend.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the gentleman had 1 minute and 45 seconds.
We'll make sure he gets plenty of time.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Well, in the interest of time, Mr. Chairman, I'll just read what was written by the president. He said, everybody is asking why the Justice Department and FBI isn't looking into all of the dishonesty going on with crooked Hillary and the Dems. Let me ask you a question. Is it ever appropriate for a president, any president of the United States, to encourage the Department of Justice to launch criminal investigations against his or her perceived political enemies?
I'm not going to comment on that, Congressman. As I've explained previously, the President has put a team of experienced folks in charge of the Department of Justice, and we are not going to be influenced by anything other than the facts and the law.
Was that an appropriate tweet for the President of the United States to send?
It's not my role to opine on that.
Did the President's repeated attempts to encourage criminal prosecutions against perceived political enemies concern you, sir?
Congressman, as I said, we understand our responsibility, and we're going to continue to conduct our responsibility in accordance with the facts and the law. And I am grateful that the President has put an experienced team in charge of the Justice Department who understand what to do.
Okay, thanks. On June 20th, the New York Times published a wide-ranging interview with Donald Trump. In it, the President criticized you for being from Baltimore, saying there are very few Republicans in Baltimore, if any. So he's from Baltimore.
That's true.
Mr. Rosenstein, are you unable to be fair and impartial because you're from Baltimore?
Well, I'm actually not from Baltimore. I did work in Baltimore for 12 years. It's true that there are not a lot of Republicans in Baltimore.
Okay, Donald Trump's statement had no basis in reality, correct?
Well, as I said, that part of it was true.
Okay, Preet Bharara is the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, true?
Yes,
And he was fired by Donald Trump in March, is that correct?
along with almost all sitting U.S. attorneys.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York has prosecutorial jurisdiction over Trump Tower in Manhattan, correct?
Has jurisdiction over everything in its jurisdiction.
Okay, in presidential interviews of U.S. Attorney candidates, as has been reported to be the case for Preet Bharara's replacement, that would be a departure from traditional presidential protocol, correct?
For the President personally to conduct the interview?
That's correct.
I'm not aware of all the prior practices. I don't think it was done in the last two administrations that I'm familiar with.
Okay. And you were appointed by President Bush and then continued in that position as U.S. Attorney for Maryland by Barack Obama. That's correct.
That's correct. As a matter of law, I was appointed and never removed.
Okay. Were you ever asked by President Bush for a loyalty pledge?
No.
Were you ever asked by President Barack Obama to take a loyalty pledge?
No.
Is it ever appropriate for the President of the United States to demand that Department of Justice official or FBI director take a loyalty pledge?
I don't have any opinion about that, Congressman. Nobody's asked me to take a loyalty pledge other than the oath of office.
Thanks. I yield back.